So last year, I think about last year, I thought we've been demonizing sugar and carbs. I'm going to, for an academic argument, try and work out what's the toxic dose. And this is interesting for your listeners. In the talks, actually, carbohydrate, the dose is the poison. It's on YouTube and stuff. And I really haven't got any negative feedback from it, because I came up with an academic argument that 4 grams of glucose was the toxic dose. Now that's 1 teaspoon, that's 1/5 of a slice of bread. It's 1 bite of an apple. It's not very much. But at that level, sugar, and we'll say half fructose, half glucose. So fructose has got, and so if you go to my talks on nutritional model of modern disease and inflammation or all, that's where I talk about fructose. We didn't know about fructose until about 2010, 2011. It just wasn't in the literature. My textbooks listed fructose, fructose 6-phosphate, and then there's nothing. But we just completely ignored it, even though there's been some researchers, Gerald Reaven, for instance, has been talking about it in his books there for 30, 40 years, but completely ignored. But the definitive metabolism of fructose was pretty well worked out in 2010, 2011. Journal of Physiology looked happy. So Professor Tappy is from Switzerland. I have actually met him. I specifically hopped on a flight to ask him one question. So the guy definitively described fructose. I said, Professor Tappy, is there a human biochemical requirement for us to ingest fructose? I knew the answer. I warned him that I was going to ask him the question publicly. And the answer is no. We do not need to ingest a single bit of fructose. And the same goes with glucose. There is not a single biochemical pathway in the body that requires us to ingest glucose. So we're all told that carbs are important. And they're either glucose or fructose or combinations of them. Have we ever considered, and this is my hypothesis, that the body, the bloodstream, hates glucose and fructose so much that it does everything in its capacity to get it out of it? And if you take that premise, which is an alternate view, it's going back to inversion, that one man's answer, look at things from the opposite thing. You look at how much the body does to get fructose and glucose out of the system. So carbohydrates are only naturally available in seasonal fruit, honey, and breast milk. That's it. People talk about grains. Well, no, it's not seasonal. That'll destroy your teeth. Early agricultural revolution populations didn't have any teeth because they tried to chew it and it just ground their teeth down. They learnt to brew it into beer and mead, but they couldn't eat it. And so therefore, when you start looking at what it does, so fructose, when you get fruit in the wild, and we're just animals, we're meant to stuff our faces with it to get fat for winter hibernation. That's it. Think about fruit, because that's the only natural source. Honey is in fact seasonally available as well, because the bees only produce it in the spring, summer, into a bit of the autumn, but that flowering season. And if you raid a beehive in the winter and take away that winter store of honey for the bees, you'll kill the hive. So honey is actually only seasonally available, and the bees are storing honey for their own survival. And I say to people, if you really want to eat honey, then climb into a wild beehive, crack into it, and if you can get some honey out of that, good luck to you. We've actually got, just up the slope here, I've got an old tree with a wild beehive in it, and it's inside. There's just no way I can get into it unless I burn the thing down. I took our grandkids up there and I just watched all these bees swarming in and out. There's no way I'm going to go into that beehive. So the only seasonal seasonal carbohydrate is fruit. And when you look at fructose, that component of it, it drives behavior. So fructose has multiple things. First of all, it comes up into the liver. It's rapidly metabolized into the liver, and it has effects that will actually effectively store it as fat. But it also has an effect on the hypothalamus to actually stimulate hunger. It has an effect on the nucleus accumbens in the brain, which is the addiction center, which is like heroin. Others have referred to it like that. So it stimulates and drives this behavior. It has an anti-leptin effect. Leptin is the hormone secreted by the fat in your body, which actually tells you that you've had enough. So it actually tells you just keep eating. It has a ghrelin effect, which is the hormone which makes your belly rumble. It makes you feel hungry. It also has an effect in a pathway called the aldehyde pathway, where it gets converted into alcohol in the liver. So that makes you soporific and laid back. And monkeys in the wild that gorge themselves on fruit on a tree lie around in an alcoholic stupor after it. I mean, it's all the animal kingdom's been telling us this. You can watch all that. Then it's also got a pathway where it gets metabolized. The metabolites go into uric acid. Uric acid is that interesting thing which people associate with gout, but we've got more gout in society now, but it's related to us eating too much sugar, not too much red meat, and not too much alcohol. Uric acid has an effect on inhibiting our production of nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is a critical hormone which keeps our blood vessels open, keeps supply going to our brains, and it allows our white cells to be involved in the immune response. So when we eat too much sugar, we affect our blood supply to our brain, we increase our blood pressure, causing hypertension, and we reduce our immunity. So those people with high blood pressure, if they take sugar out of their diet, then bang, all of a sudden their blood pressure comes down. Their immunity improves, which is diabetes, and the blood supply to the brain is stabilized. That's just one pathway. We can then talk about ketone effects on the brain. And the fructose gets converted, the fat storage portion of it gets converted into small, dense LDLs. Now, lipoproteins involved in our fat storage. And unfortunately, if they get oxidized, they are the inflammatory ones that go to every corner of the body. Losing that voice. That's fructose in a nutshell. I mean, I've covered a lot of biochemistry in that. And again, go to YouTube and look at my talks on nutrition and inflammation, because that's where fructose fits into that.